Now, most indigenous Ghanaian names tend to have meanings. Names which translated into English would sound somewhat unusual. For instance, an Akan name like Nyamiche Upuku would translate into God's gift Upuku, while a Dagbani name like Mbatema Yusuf would mean my father gave to me Yusuf. It's along those same lines that an Ewe name like Maufemo Gbehu would translate into God's way Gbehu. Now, as we commemorate Ghana Month this March, we focus on Ewe names and why there always has to be a certain God factor in the names that are chosen by Ewe parents. Now, the report by Selinam Ampo, which translates into God is there for me, Ampo, highlights this a bit more.
An ever friend of mine is called It Is in the Hands of God. That's a whole sentence, but it's a sentence which the Evers would simply summarize as Ele Mausi. They are known for their rich names, which always have interesting meanings and are full of praise to God. Temi de Maunu Amejeko, a shopkeeper, tells us what her name means and the circumstances surrounding her birth.
My Ewe name is Temi de Maunu. It means draw us closer to God. I learned I was a prophetic child, but before my birth, my father was quite a flirt, and he loves these Accra big women and so on. So when the prophet visited that time and inquired of my mother, so as my mother came, she conceived me, and when she gave birth to me, they said, this is Temi de Maunu. I'm supposed to draw them from all evil, behaviors, attitude, and whatever.
Others gave their children names that recognize the God factor before the advent of Christianity. They acknowledge the presence of a supreme being in their lives and refer to that force as Mau Sogbolisa. Social linguistics lecturer Evashet Amuzu explains how they apply it to their names.
Mau existed long before Christianity. So we always had the concept that there's Mau Sogbolisa. We have Mau names, Mauena, Mau Lolo, Mau Nyo, and so on. All of these are, as I said before, the opportunity that the name givers have to praise God, to show the appreciation, and to signal one form or the other what they think God has done for them. Third, for example, is another name for God. Mau is the one we talk about most of the time. Sir is the fuller version of Sir is Jogbasa, the God of destiny. And always regard Mau as more or less also a God of destiny. So that Sana, Sarufia, Sadam, they were there long before Christianity.
Often, Evers get teased with their names, which are usually heavy on the tongue. Names like Buchomekpo, Mokpokpo, and Chwekeo are just a few. To prevent any slips or fumbling when pronouncing their names, some Evers translate their names into English.
It's also true that pronunciation of Ewe names may pose a problem to other people who do not speak Ewe. So some parents may decide that the concept that they will want to express in Ewe, they will rather express it in English to reach out to all of that transmitted me. When I asked my father, he says that when I was born, he felt that God has always protected him, and my birth again shows that that is the case. So in Ewe, it means Vovolimavo, everlasting shelter. Vovolimavo, which he then translates into English as Evershed. So I happen to be the first to have that name.
For non-Ewes, maybe they may have to eat a morsel of akple and okro to provide some fluidity on their tongues, just so they can mention these names without any struggle. But for the most part, Ewe names.
Gosh, that was fascinating stuff. And yes, indeed, I'm now thinking through all of my Ewe friends and trying to figure out what their names mean. A very quick makeshift lesson in Ewe is needed right now. So I'm going to go do that while we take this break.